one of the customs that we have in the Evans household is that when you finish your GCSEs, you get to go with Dad and climb a mountain. And so on Tuesday this week, Josiah and I made it to the top of Snowdon. And so this is the 4th time now that I've climbed Snowdon, and I'm still yet to see the view from the top of the mountain. It was complete whiteout. We absorbed cloud on Tuesday. We got absolutely soaked. We saw absolutely nothing from the top. And let me give you, this is a couple of photos from previous climbs that I've done. You can see a bit of a theme there, can't you? Just, I kind of say to the kids, like, you know, just make sure you've got a change of clothes, a couple of towels, definitely have a change of shoes. The last time that I walked, less so this time, when I got to the bottom, it was like my shoes were full of water. It was like I was walking in a puddle the whole way back down. So anyway, we had a great time. But like I said, I've still not seen the view from the top. I do believe there is a view from the top of Snowdon. In fact, some of you have told me there's a view. So because I trust you and believe you, I know there's a view. And I have seen postcards of the view, and I know that generally the higher you go, the better the view is. And so I know it's a long way up, so there must be a good view. But that view has eluded me to this point in time. And I was telling my dad about it this week, and he said, wow. He said, well, it's going to be a long wait for a grandchild before you get to see the view, isn't it? And so maybe I'm going to have to find an excuse to climb it another time and see if I can get to enjoy the view. But anyway, I tell you that because that experience of things being clouded, of things being kind of there but not really there, it's like you know they're there but you don't really engage with it. For some people that's a bit like their experience of God. It's like they know that He's there. They've heard stories of other people talking about Him and encounters with Him, but for them, it feels very much like they're kind of walking in this sort of shrouded experience of, like, God is there, but where is He? And I know that He loves me, but I've never really experienced it for myself. And that's not how God wants to relate to us. Well, we don't need the sound, it's all right. That's not how God wants to relate to us. And so, as a church, we've been working our way through the Gospel according to John, just paying close attention to this account of the life of Jesus. John was Jesus' closest friend. He was an eyewitness of the life of Jesus. And part of John's message is to tell us that Jesus came from heaven to earth to reveal the Father to us, to take away that experience, that sense of God being there, but us never really seeing Him or connecting with Him. And so at the beginning of his gospel, John declares to us that the Word, the one who was with God in the beginning, the one who was God, the one who is God, has been made flesh. He has taken on human form. God has stepped out of heaven, and He's become someone that you can see and touch and have a conversation with and spend time with and share a meal with. John goes on to declare that Jesus is the light of the world. And in saying that, part of what he's saying is Jesus has come to reveal the truth. He's come to turn the lights on for us. Because we're like people walking in the darkness. We've been stumbling around, trying to work out which is up and which is down, and where is God and where is He not. And the light of the world has come. Jesus Himself said, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. That's why He came, to show us what the Father is like. And so Jesus turned water into wine, and He healed a lame man right in the middle of a pagan temple. He healed a man who'd been born blind, gave him his sight from not even having the equipment to see. Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. And all of that was to show His disciples, to show us what God is like. Those are just some of the many signs that Jesus performed. Every one of which was to reveal the Father's heart and to reveal who God is. Jesus loved His enemies. He was willing to do the lowest job in the household to show what God is like. And having done all of that, the point that we've got to in John's Gospel, Jesus now says to His disciples, you've seen nothing yet. I'm going to be glorified. You think what you've seen is wow and is amazing, and it is. But something much more wonderful is about to happen. You're about to see and experience something that is going to make all of that look like trivia. And this is the hour that I've been living towards. This is my purpose. This is why I stepped out of heaven. And so Jesus is beginning to prepare his disciples to experience a revelation of God that is like nothing the world has seen before. So we're going to pick up where we left off last time. We're in John, we're in chapter 16. We're going to start at verse 16 and read to the end of the chapter. And I just want to encourage you, just as the words are read to you, just to allow them to kind of flow over you. Don't pressure yourself to try and kind of understand all of it as it's being read. This is God's word. And so all you have to do is open your heart. And some of it will make sense and some of it might not yet make sense, and that's okay. Just let his word into your heart and trust him that his word is good seed and it will grow. So Ian's going to read for us today. So John 16 through 33.
In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me. Some of his disciples said to one another, "What does he mean by saying, 'In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me, and because I am going to the Father?'" They kept asking, "What does he mean by a little while? We don't understand what he is saying." Jesus saw that they wanted to ask him about this, so he said to them, "Are you asking one another what I meant when I said, 'In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me'? I tell you the truth, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy. A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. So with you, now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. In that day, you will no longer ask me anything. I tell you the truth, my Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Until now, you have not asked for anything in my name. Ask and you will receive, and your joy will be complete. Though I have been speaking figuratively, a time is coming when I will no longer use this kind of language, but will tell you plainly about my Father. In that day you will ask in my name. I am not saying that I will ask the Father on your behalf. No, the Father himself loves you because you have loved me and have believed that I came from God. I came from the Father and entered the world. Now I am leaving the world and going back to the Father." Then Jesus' disciples said, "Now you are speaking clearly and without figures of speech. Now we can see that you know all things and that you do not even need to have anyone ask you questions. This makes us believe that you came from God." "You believe at last," Jesus answered. "But a time is coming and has come when you will be scattered, each to his own home. You will leave me all alone. Yet I am not alone, for my Father is with me. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world."
Thank you. So, let's work this out together. We talked about that experience of things being shrouded, and here's Jesus. He's talking to the disciples, and straight away he's kind of talking in this riddle, and he's talking in a way that makes more questions than answers. And so he's basically saying to the disciples, well, now you see me, then you won't, and then you'll see me again. Here I am, now I'm not going to be here, and then I'll be back. I'm here for a little while, then I'm going to go. and I'll be back in a little while. So no wonder the disciples have questions. It's like, so how long is a little while? Is the first little while the same length of time as the second little while? Or is that a short little while and a long little while? It's like, what on earth is Jesus going on about? And then, having done that, Jesus doesn't answer the question about the little while and how long it is. He goes on to tell them, well, actually, you guys are about to experience something intensely painful. And everybody else is going to be really happy, and you're going to be absolutely crushed in heart. That's what's gone on. But you're not going to stay like that. Because the result of that pain is going to be a joy that is a forever joy. And so this is going to feel like labor. A woman going through labor is going to be a pain that you have to go through, but at the end of it, there will be joy. And it's at that point that we get our first clue as to what on earth Jesus is going on about. You know, he's talking to the disciples, they've got questions, and he says to them, in that day, this is after going through the pain of labor, he says, in that day, you will ask me nothing. And basically what Jesus is saying to the disciples is he's about to demonstrate to them, to reveal to them God in such a way that they're not going to have any questions anymore. Suddenly everything is going to become clear. Suddenly everything will be plain to them. He goes on and he says to them, he says, I will tell you about the Father plainly. There isn't going to be this kind of riddle anymore. It's going to be clear. Now, he'd already said to them, if you want to know what God is like, watch me. And so watch the way that I treat other people. Watch the way that I talk to other people. Watch the way that I treat the children. Watch the way that I treat women. Watch the way that I treat outsiders. And watch how I treat sinners. Watch how I treat the religious. Watch what I do in moments of danger. Watch what I do when other people disrespect me. Watch what I do when there's a hungry crowd in front of me. Watch what I do when I'm at a wedding and it's been badly undercatered. Just watch what I do. And then you'll see what the Father is like. But if that's not enough for you, if having watched me all this time, things are not clear, Jesus says, don't worry, because clarity is coming. I'm going to tell you about the Father plainly. And so the question is, well, what is our Father, your Father? What is he like? Jesus says, well, what you're about to see, is talking to them about the experience they're about to go through. This is going to be me glorified. And he says to them, Father's like this. And he acts out in the hours ahead what he promised he would show them. They're expecting some kind of sort of verbal delivery of this is what God is like, but Jesus actually lives it out for them to see. So what is our Father like? What is your Father like? Well, your Father is the righteous one. He is holy. He is the one who invented justice. He's the one who set moral standards. And so when he is illegally tried, when those who are accusing him are determined to get to their outcome regardless of the truth, Jesus says nothing. He doesn't object, he doesn't argue, he doesn't defend himself. Your Father is the Almighty One. And when he is mocked, when he is tortured, when he is dishonored, not even a sound comes out of his mouth to object to that treatment or to warn those who are doing it of what they're doing. Nothing. And then when Jesus is stripped naked and he is nailed to a cross, and people start to gloat over him for what looks like the end of his life, he says, Father, forgive them. In that moment when God turns his back on Jesus and abandons him utterly, when he is utterly, completely, absolutely alone, Jesus holds on to his faith. And he keeps trusting, he keeps believing, he keeps praying, and he keeps on loving. What is your Father like? Jesus is glorified. He reveals the Father in a way that has never been dreamed of or seen before. This is what your Father is like. You see, when we think of glory, we think of kind of bling and razzmatazz. When we think of glory, we think of crowds and applause and kind of media fanfare. We think of shows of force. We think of kind of someone who's dressed to the nines, as it were. We think of money, and we think of influence, and we think of things. And all of those things are the outward appearances of what might be glory. But the newspapers tell us every day that it's possible to have all of those things and to not live a glorious life. You can be filthy rich and at the same time morally bankrupt. You can be the most popular person on earth. You can have more power than most people on earth. And at the same time, you can have a character that is completely corrupt. So when we think about God and God's glory, when Jesus says that he's going to be glorified, what we're thinking of are flashing lights and a voice like thunder. We're thinking of legions of angels. We're thinking of mighty signs and wonders. And this is what Jesus gives us. Because this is what you need to understand, is that true glory isn't about the outward expression of who you are and what you have. You might just happen to have all the power and all the cash, so it looks glorious. But true glory is about what's in here. And that is what Jesus is revealing. That's what he's talking to the disciples about. That's what he's saying you are going to see. You're going to see something that no one has ever dreamed of. You're going to see what God is really like. And the only way that you can tell what someone is really like is when they are truly abandoned, when they are in trouble, when there is no help coming, when they're being disrespected, when they're being shamed in front of other people. That's when the true person comes to the surface. And Jesus says, let me show you what your Father is like. And he preaches a message that has never been heard before. That the God who made all things is willing to be crucified by those that he made. To pay for their corruption and their depravity. To pay for their rebellion and the evil that is in their hearts. To pay for their selfishness. He's willing to do that. Even though he knows that some of them will never thank him for what he's done. And some of them will turn their back on him and despise him for what he's done. He's willing to do it anyway. That's what true glory looks like. And then Jesus says to his disciples, and if that still isn't enough for you, he says, the Father himself loves you because you've loved me. See, if you see Jesus, you hear Jesus, if you believe that what you have seen and heard really is what God is like, and if you love what you've seen, and if what you've seen and heard is something that makes you want to spend yourself on his agenda, if what you see in Jesus is something that means that you want to devote yourself to his presence, then that is you expressing love for God. And that's proof that you really do love God, is that you love Jesus, because he is the exact representation of God. And so the disciples are listening to Jesus, and it's like they suddenly have this aha moment. Jesus has said, look, enough of the riddles, enough of the shroudedness. I'm going to talk plainly. I'm going to show you something that no one's seen before. The Father himself loves you. And the disciples are like, oh, this is fantastic. We don't have to go through this whole kind of, what does Jesus mean? What's he really getting at? Who's he talking about? We don't have to go through that anymore. And they're like, yes, Jesus, we believe you, we trust you, we know that you're God. And Jesus says, well, you don't really get it still. But After you have failed dramatically, spectacularly, then you will. And this is what you need to get. Jesus reveals to them the glory of the Father. This is what they're going to experience. But for them to truly appreciate how glorious he is, they have to fail spectacularly, so that they know that they can never earn his approval and his love. He loves them already, regardless of their performance, regardless of how well they're doing or not well they're doing. It's like that experience of abandoning Jesus, the one that has loved them so perfectly. It's like, how could you ever do that? And for them to experience that that Father still loves them. Then they will know. And then they will see the Father plainly, more plainly than they've ever seen before. And so how do you respond to this? What practical things can you take away from what I've just said? Well, this is the challenge, isn't it? When we began in the beginning of John, as we're working it through, there's this call to believe. Jesus is encouraging, inviting people to believe. But as we've moved into the second part of John, the message has changed. And it's changed from believe to just receive. And so the point of what we've just looked at is that the Father himself loves you. And it doesn't have anything to do with your performance. So if I give you something that you have to do in response to this, it kind of misses the point. The action point from this is receive his love. That's all you have to do. The Father himself loves you. Telling you plainly about the Father. He loves you. And all you have to do is to say thank you. I want that. And that is responding to Jesus' words.